today. As I think you know, Women of Reform Judaism is honoring several remarkable women during our upcoming Women's Empowerment Awards event on May 13th. And between now and then, to get to know them better, each week we're releasing a video about one of our honorees to highlight their achievements and engaging them in conversation here on Facebook Live. We want to thank Natalie Bowles, an associate on our philanthropy team, who is assisting us with the tech today. And I'm Blair Marks, a past president of Women of Reform Judaism. And today I am honored to be joined by our next honoree, Tani Prell. Now, Tani, you and I first met working on a diversity, equity, and inclusion task force for the Union for Reform Judaism. And I know that you've had a variety of roles in the Jewish community and education and in the arts with a commitment to equity, inclusion, and belonging. So let's start with this. How have you empowered women in these and other roles throughout your volunteer and professional life?
Well, thank you so much, Blair. I'm so happy to be here. And just a big thank you to the WRJ in general, which has been incredibly impactful in my life before this, and just filled with complete gratitude and very humbled, and just like, what a rock star group of ladies to be recognized next to. So I'm just like overflowing with gratitude at the moment. So very, very happy to be here. And women's empowerment has really been central to my entire life, and also just a really core part of my career. And to me, it really means that as women, we're not just out here surviving and getting by, but we are thriving, and we are like living our lives to the absolute fullest and filled with joy, and that we are really in partnership with one another in terms of moving all of us forward together. In my job, I work at 18 Doors. I'm the Chicago director for 18 Doors. So I get to work with interfaith couples and families. And I think empowering women really is a big part of what I do, in terms of really for the women that I work with, for us to like dream as big as we possibly can for what we want our lives to look like, what we want our homes to look like. And part of my job at 18 Doors is to like be empowering couples to figure out like, how do you want to live Jewishly? These are some of the ways that you can do it. What is most meaningful for you? And for women in particular, to really be thinking about, we've been told so much societally about this is the timeline that we have to be on. This is what our homes will look like. Having kids, not having kids, so much associated with that. And so for women to just really empower them within a Jewish thread as well, but to really like whatever choices that you make are the right choices for you, and to lean in and know that you're supported with it. And going forward, it's, I think, always going to be just such a big part of my life. I always think about all the women who came before me, who are a reason why I'm here today, and just filled with gratitude always. Actually, I have a tattoo of the female symbol on my shoulder, and I like to think of that as like I'm always carrying the women who came before me with me, and like no matter what success I might have, it's nothing if I'm not bringing other people with me, and other women with me, and we're all in it together.
I love that, the notion, and that you have the tangible carrying the women who came before you, but also bringing the notion of bringing other women with you and dreaming as big as we can and enabling that. That is awesome. So let me ask you a specific question. What is one of your proudest moments lifting the voices of others who may not have a platform to do so themselves?
Yeah, oh, that's such a good question. I'm grateful. I have a lot of moments that I'm proud of just getting to be in deep partnership with people and hearing their stories along the way. One of my most proud moments was as a high school teacher. And at an undergrad, I did Teach for America and got to be a high school teacher. And it was the best thing. I absolutely loved it. My students were an absolute gift. And so I taught creative writing and performing arts. And for many of my students, I was kind of the only arts outlet that they had for their high school career so far. And so my creative writing class was just such a highlight of my life and my career and for my students, and to be able to be in partnership with them in terms of just carving out a time for my students to really, with no expectations aside from them exploring who they are and where they've come from and who they want to be, and to be able to give a kind of a creative format for doing that. And so all the writing and the poetry that came from those classes for my students, and for them to have that space to find their voice in this creative way with there's no test at the end, no standardized test that you have to be striving for this number or expectations that this is how I want you to write. And so for them to be able to really creatively explore in that way. And then for my theater students, we had our after school theater program. And at first we would do plays that were like written by other people, and that was great. And like I had such a wonderfully creative group of students who I was like, the best thing that I can do is kind of like to step back and to give them the support and to let them create their own masterpiece of writing a play. So they would write their own plays and then perform them. And I'm really the self-exploration that was able to come from that, and just seeing like the amazing adults that they've all become now is just like truly one of the best and greatest gifts that I could have, is to just see how them finding their voices now impacts them as adults, and to be able to create that space for them. I'm sorry, I have a tickle. And then so that's like kind of on the professional side. And then with the URJ, Blair, I think our work with the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Task Force like was so impactful. And that was what I focused my graduate work at with Spurtis, was really thinking about for my capstone, how can Jewish nonprofit boards diversify so that they're reflective of the Jewish community as a whole? And so with the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Task Force, like that was incredible. That really has been wonderful to see the impacts of that throughout the URJ. And then with the work with the North American board and with nominations, to think about like what will it really mean for us to have a board that is reflective of the diversity of the American Jewish community, and that it is something that's sustainable and something that is transformative and helps move the entire movement forward, and just bringing in individuals whose experiences are just so incredible and impactful. And so I'm really grateful that from the work that started there, and identifying what some of those barriers had been, in terms of like, well, why doesn't it look the way the American Jewish community looks right now? And so just the steps, the movement that we've made to be able to kind of address those barriers and make it more accessible, and to make the board and the movement a place where everyone truly belongs. I'm really proud of the progress we've been making.
Yeah, and your contributions to that are really tremendous in terms of the early work on where are those barriers that you just mentioned, how do they impact people, what do we do about them, and now helping see it through to make the changes that need to be made, which is great. I do want to back up to your talking about teaching, because I get goosebumps. My mother was an English teacher. Similarly, giving young people the opportunity to find their voices. And I love it when I hear the stories from or about other teachers, as you did, and then as you recognize when they come back as adults and you see where that went. I know how rewarding that must be for you. And thank you for providing those opportunities. Let's move on. Let's get another story here, another specific. How about a time when Jewish values informed and influenced your work? And how do you think Jewish values and empowering others, how do those two things intersect?
Yeah, that's a great question because they're so intertwined. My personal life, my Jewish life, my professional life in a very, I think, beautiful kind of tapestry of a way. And so I mean, I know we reference Tikkun Olam very often, but truly like that is repairing, this idea of repairing the world is really central to just how I live. And of course, like in regards to social justice, that we're repairing the world, but more so for me on the kind of Kabbalistic idea of Tikkun Olam, and that all like the light of God was in a vessel and then it shattered, and we're in this process of bringing the light together. And that's been a really central kind of framework for me. I had a really rough childhood, early childhood, and so I feel like I kind of entered life a little shattered, and my life has been this process of building myself and healing myself and repairing and bringing the light together, and to do so in kind of in a way that the mold wasn't there, so I'm creating the mold for myself. And I really feel like we each have little universes inside of us, like we're all our own little universe, and so we're all in this process of healing ourselves and repairing ourselves as individuals. And I truly believe that me healing myself, I'm healing the women who came before me, and making it and really helping that path for the women who come after me. And so I just imagine for each of us as our own little universes to be in this constant process of healing and repair for ourselves is a very radical act. And then when you take every woman together who is in this process of we're healing and repairing ourselves as individuals and collectively, and especially in a society where as women, and then add any additional marginalized identity, being a person of color, being trans, being big, being disabled, there's so many additional things that want to keep on shattering us and want to keep us down and chip away at any of the healing that's happened. And so the fact that we are able to keep on in this constant process of repairing ourselves and repairing the world as a central value, and with Judaism as this beautiful framework for it, I think is a very powerful gift that I hope that I can help other women also be leaning into, and just feeling like very empowered in that constant process. And for my job and thinking about just the work I do for 18 Doors in particular, is this idea of kind of building, to be able to get this idea of being able to build your home and build your life in a way that is most meaningful to you, and to have that be very central. And I love just how this idea of kind of collective responsibility is so central to Judaism. And I think for women's empowerment, we are collectively all accountable for one another and for moving things forward. And so I think that Judaism provides this like beautiful framework for women to continue to be empowered, and that we have like such wonderful ladies in the Torah to like be able to have as example.
Maybe not as many as we'd like, but
Yeah.
but they are there. They are there when
Yes.
we look for them. So, and that notion of collective accountability and the journey that we're all on, I think is really powerful, Tani. And that response, such a great lead in for what is my last question for you, which is, what piece of advice would you give to women who are still fighting to be heard?
Fight is real. But be bold, live boldly. Like truly, I I always say to myself, like, this isn't the dress rehearsal. I take my like performing arts and theater, like this is our life. This is the moment that we have, and to really feel empowered to live as boldly and to seize the life that we have always wanted for ourselves, and to know you're not alone, and to really I find every year I am more and more grateful for just the beautiful friendships that I have with other women, and just the power of being in deep relationship with other women. And something I've had to learn along the way is that I don't have to be strong all the time. And that for the moments where I need to just kind of heal and be vulnerable, that for when I need that space, that I have just this amazing group of women who are there to hold me and help me move forward in the same way that I'm there for them. And so to like find your people, and that I just that we're all able to kind of bring each other along in the journey is really a beautiful thing. And you can do it. But also my advice, you can do it. And if you need a cheerleader, call me up, and I will hype you up.
That is awesome. And that's what wonderful advice. Find your people, be bold, and always remember you can do it. I think, folks, that hearing that from Tani, you understand how she inspires so many, and why, Tani, you are so deserving of this award. And I really want to thank you for taking the time for this conversation today.
Blair, thank you. It's always wonderful to talk to you, and I'm just so glad to be in the interview with you. So thank you for your questions, and to anyone who tuned in. Glad to share space with you. So thank you.
And I also want to thank everyone who's joined us today, and remind you to tune in again next week for our next Facebook Live conversation with another one of our honorees. Next week, Rachel Schulteis will be interviewed by Rabbi Marla Feldman, who's the Executive Director of Women of Reform Judaism. To register for our Women's Empowerment Awards event on May 13th, please go to our website, wrj.org. And if you'd like to personally congratulate an honoree, please consider providing a tribute ad in their honor. The deadline for purchasing the tribute ads has been extended through Monday, April 11th. And once again, Natalie, who we don't see, but Natalie, thank you for providing the tech support today. And again, Tani, congratulations.
Thank you so much. Hope everyone has a great day.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you.